What's good, family? This is your friend, the Gospel Pastor A.T. Robinson. We're back with another video. We're talking about 8 keys to a successful and healthy marriage. It's written by Joshua Becker, this particular article that we're going over. It's also posted in our page on 365 on Facebook. And it's really beneficial, I believe, that we take note on how we can better ourselves for our marriage. One of the quotes that is written is that the successful marriage does not come merely through finding the right mate. Some people think we have to find the right mate, but ultimately it comes from making sure you are the right mate. And that is a quote from Barrett R. Brickner. And that is so true. We think that our mate needs to be a certain type of person, do a certain type of thing, and ultimately we really need to be the person who's investing in our relationship and bettering ourselves. If everybody in the relationship takes this approach and seeks to better themselves, everybody who's in the relationship will receive the benefit. So here we go. Let's look at the first thing. Yeah, and before we get into this, it actually goes into the point of telling us that we have to learn to invest in our relationship, our money, our energy, and our time into these 8 essential things for a healthy marriage. And we all believe if you're going to be in a marriage, we'll make sure it's healthy. It's not going to be healthy just by you just getting in there. You have to make sure you invest. Anything that is invested in properly into good ground and right investment will receive the right return. And if you're in the relationship, you're going to want to make sure that you receive the right return. So the first thing it lists is love and commitment. It says at its core, love is a decision to commit to another person. That is very true. It is far from more than a fleeting emotion or portraying we see on television. That is something that we have to note, that on movies and big screens, we have this fantasy ideal of what love should be, what relationships should be, but that's not real. You see these things in romantic novels and stuff, and we get this type of fantasy, and we say we want that for our life, but the truth of the matter is that that's not real life. That's why it's called fantasy for a reason. And most of the relationships that you do see in the real world that could be considered these fantasies don't last very long, because underneath the facade of what we push out for social media and different things in our life, they're not really having the love and commitment that they need. And I'll tell you right now, when you get married, that's just the start of your love. Your love should continue to grow deeper and deeper. I can say right now, I'm more in love with my wife right now than I ever was with her in the beginning. It's just that once you come to know that person, you come to appreciate that person, you relish that person for what they are, and you're going to continue to grow. The next thing is, and a very important one, is called sexual faithfulness. Now, this is one of those things where I talk about how there's no such thing as a work husband or a work wife. You leave yourself open to manipulation and being seduced, whether knowingly or unknowingly, to that other person. The simple fact that you can call them a work husband or work wife implies that they're getting something of a husband type nature or a wife type nature. And so therefore that can be a very problem, because it says sexual faithfulness in marriage includes more than just our bodies. And some people think that if I don't commit a sin against my spouse with my body, I didn't do anything wrong. But no, it can also be your eyes. How are you seductively looking at that person through your eyes? Or is your mind allowing you to fantasize and carry it away, but you never act on it? But yet the Bible tells us that as a man thinketh, so is he. So it allows us to know that sin first starts in our mind, and we are carried away when we're carried away from our own lust and our desires in our heart and also in our soul. So ultimately, we have to make sure that we are pure and that we only devote things of that intimate nature to our spouses. There's some conversations that don't need to be had with the opposite sex, sometimes even with the same sex. You don't need to tell all your business and keep that private. All right. The other thing is humility. Very important, because we don't always have that humility. No one in the relationship that should think that they are better than the other person or bigger than the other person. And when you start not having a humble heart, you really start having a prideful mentality, and you never can admit that you're wrong. You always seek to do what is beneficial to you and not the other person. And that also leads to lack of forgiveness and selfishness, which we're going to talk about later on. So humility is very important. Let me humble myself. There's plenty of times that I don't necessarily agree with what my wife's saying at the time, but if I humble myself to at least listen to what she has to say, it's like, okay, no, you're right. But if I don't humble myself and I'm too prideful, I can't admit that I'm wrong. And if I never admit that I'm wrong, then I never can get changed or get better. So next thing is, speaking of forgiveness, is having the patience, because no one is perfect. Yes, see, number 3, no one is perfect. We have to be patient and forgive. So we ask God to forgive us. We ask God to have patience with us. We also need to have patience and forgiveness for our mate, because we're not perfect. Remember, it's 2 people coming together to merge their history, their background, their makeups together. And we don't always do the same thing. We don't always know what's right. What may be okay for one person may not be okay for the other. It is not necessarily that it is sin that the person is doing, but it may be sin against that other person. It may be a fault against that other person. And sometimes you just have to ask God for forgiveness and humble yourself and realize that you make mistakes. In a relationship, it's very hard to move forward if neither one of them can admit that they make mistakes and that they have some issues in this particular area. But ultimately, the best marriages are ones that say, you know what, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I assumed something when I shouldn't assume. I said something when I shouldn't have said. I wasn't in my right mind or in my right thinking. Please forgive me for my action. And then also got to forgive yourself. You have to have forgiveness for yourself for past things that may have done. Don't carry those new things into the relationship. And that comes with number 5, which is time. Right? So relationships don't work without time invested, right? So it never have and never will. Any successful relationship requires intentional quality time together. Going off of one thing that my wife has said recently, when I was doing all these trips and stuff, she said, look, we don't go out on dates as much as we used to. And I was like, what are you talking about? We go to Walmart, we go to the store, we go to the furniture store, we go to a whole bunch of places. But that doesn't count when it comes to a date. She wanted quality time. She didn't want it required time as family, as far as trying to feed the family. She wanted a deeper connection. And so you take those moments where we go to the movies, or you have those restaurant moments where it's just us, or you take little day trips, and that's what you have to do to invest in your relationship. And it causes you to have more intimate moments so that you don't have number 2 rolling up in your life as well. You can devote those intimate moments to your spouse. So let's go to number 6. Number 6 deals with honesty and trust. Become the foundation of everything in a successful marriage. Matter of fact, I'm trying to figure out, this probably should have been number 1. But unlike most of the other essentials on this list, trust takes time. It does take time, because you're coming from a past relationship. You may have had some issues with women and how they treated you. You may have had some issues with men and how they treated you. And now you have this person who has a clean slate, but yet they resemble in gender and different things that they may say or do to the other person. You have to know that that is not them. So you have to be honest with them about your feelings and say what you mean and mean what you say it in love, and then also begin to trust the person to realize that's not you, that's not them. And only after time that you have together in that relationship do they quite understand that you're going to be there for the long haul. I always tell my friends, I said I'm working some stuff in my marriage. Listen, when we were early on, I said I'm trying to get tenure, like a tenured professor. Once you get in there, they know that you're committed. They know that you're invested. They know that you have time spent in the family with the children and different things like that. They know that you're not going to leave at a drop of a dime or hat. That you're in there and that you're committed. That's what they want in our relationships: honesty and trust. So, number 7 goes back to communication. Communication. Healthy marriage partners communicate as much as possible. They certainly discuss kids, schedule, grocery list, utilities, and as I said, my wife, whatever is bothering her. We communicate our hopes and our dreams, our fears, our anxieties. Those things need to be said. I seek to study my wife. If I can wake up in the morning and study my wife and see how can I best help her, and she can wake up and see how can she best help me, then none of us should suffer lack. None of us have lack in our life because we're always trying to communicate and talk to the other person. Now, in my case, as a man, most men know that women change up the script because they like to change things up. And so however it was in year 1 may not be the same in year 7 or 8. So what you do is you keep studying them, and as just like a computer update, as that software update changes and how they change and do things and see things, you go ahead and adjust as well so that you can have the best productivity in your relationship. And men change up too. It's not just women. So I'm just speaking from my perspective. The lastly, but not least, is selfishness. You can't do anything single in a marriage. You can't be married and still be single. You can't be selfish. You can't only be concerned about yourself. You can't even as a parent, you can't be concerned only about your children. Again, from our perspective, in our relationship, the parents come first because the parents are what solidifies what the family is. And so with the stability of the husband and the wife, the children are also stable. If you cater too much towards the children and not towards the parent, then you have a dysfunction, and there's dysfunction throughout the whole family. It's kind of like one of those things where when you're on the airplane, they tell you to put the mask on yourself first and then on your children. That's kind of how it is with relationships. You have to make sure that you take care of your spouse and be selfless in that relationship so that it doesn't tear down anything else in your relationship as well as in your children's relationship as well. But you cannot be selfish. You can't just always be about you. It has to be about the other person. You have to actually show that you care because love is an action word. So listen, I've been long, you've been very patient. I hope we learned something from this particular web page. Listen, give me your insights. Which one best explains how you love of those 8? If you need help in any particular area, which area do you need help in the most? Do you agree with these things or some of the things that I said in the comments? If not, let me know. And let's just talk about it. Let's have this discussion because ultimately we want to have a healthy marriage. And I do say marriage because in a relationship, you're not giving this level of commitment to somebody in a relationship. To me, this needs to be a God level commitment, a union, a covenant commitment in a relationship in order for me to do these. And I can't do these effectively if we just dating, if we just hanging out, even if we just engaged. I got to be able to be fully committed to this process and invest in this process. And when you are married, it's kind of like you don't start doing reconstruction in an apartment. You do reconstruction in a house because you own that house. That is your property. That's what you are taking care of. And then your marriage, that's your relationship, yours and hers relationship and your marriage. And so it's very beneficial for you to make that level of investment. See what I'm saying? So listen, I've been long. You've been very patient. I hope I earned the value of your time. I love you. And as always, have a wonderful day. If this blessed you, consider hitting that like button. And if it really blessed you and you want to share with someone, go ahead and consider sharing this particular video. I love you much. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Y'all take care. Peace.